Welcome to my channel. Hey there, curious minds and mystery lovers. Welcome to our channel where we dive deep into the most puzzling and spine-chilling real-life crime stories. If you love unraveling the unknown and exploring eerie cases, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale. Now, let's get into today's haunting story. The death of Elisa Lamb. Elisa Lamb, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada, was on an adventure along the West Coast, documenting her journey on her blog and staying in touch with her parents every day. On January 26, 2013, she arrived in Los Angeles and checked into the Cecil Hotel, a historic building with a dark past, located in downtown LA. But on January 31st, the daily phone calls to her parents abruptly stopped. Elisa had vanished without a trace. Her disappearance quickly caught the attention of the LAPD, and her parents flew to Los Angeles to assist in the search. Despite their efforts, there were no leads until February 14th, when the police released eerie elevator surveillance footage of Elisa from the night she disappeared. The video showed her behaving bizarrely, stepping in and out of the elevator, hiding in the corner, talking to unseen entities, and making strange gestures. The footage sparked a myriad of theories. Some speculated that Elisa was experiencing a psychotic episode, while others suggested she was being pursued by someone just out of the camera's view. More supernatural explanations included the possibility of demonic possession. The video, which quickly went viral, only deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Around the same time, guests at the Cecil Hotel began to report unusual occurrences with the hotel's water supply. As CNN reported, Sabina Baugh, a guest who had stayed at the hotel during the investigation, described the water as initially coming out black and having a strange, foul taste. Despite the unsettling nature of the water, guests did not immediately report the issue, assuming it was just a peculiarity of the aging hotel. On the morning of February 19th, a hotel maintenance worker was sent to the roof to investigate the water tanks after guests continued to complain about the water quality. To his horror, he discovered the decomposing body of Elisa Lamb inside one of the tanks. She was naked, with her clothes and personal belongings found nearby. The discovery of her body only raised more questions. How did Elisa end up in the water tank? The roof was secured with an alarm and a locked door, and the tanks themselves were difficult to access. After an autopsy, her death was ruled an accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder being a significant contributing factor. However, many were left unsatisfied with this conclusion, given the mysterious circumstances and the hotel's notorious history. The Cecil Hotel, which opened in the 1920s, had long been associated with death and violence. It was once home to Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, who was convicted of 14 murders in the 1980s, and Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger, who is suspected of murdering several prostitutes while staying there in 1991. The hotel was also the site of numerous suicides, including a woman who jumped from a window in 1962, killing herself and a pedestrian below. The dark history of the Cecil Hotel added an eerie layer to Elisa's case, prompting further speculation and fear. The building's reputation for attracting tragedy seemed almost supernatural, leading some to believe that Elisa had fallen victim to the hotel's sinister influence. In February 2021, Netflix released a docuseries titled Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, which delved into Elisa's case and the hotel's haunted past. The series explored the various theories surrounding her death and highlighted the hotel's disturbing history, painting a grim picture of a place seemingly cursed by its own dark legacy. As investigators and true crime enthusiasts continue to study the case, the story of Elisa Lamb serves as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that still lurk in our world. Her tragic end at the Cecil Hotel remains one of the most unsettling and enigmatic cases of the 21st century, leaving us to wonder what truly happened to the young woman who sought adventure but met an untimely and inexplicable demise. Dead animals in the walls. When the Bretzus family decided to insulate their historic home in Auburn, Pennsylvania in 2015, they never imagined the gruesome discovery that awaited them. Nestled in the walls of their charming farmhouse were the remains of countless dead animals, carefully wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 1940s. Among the decaying carcasses were half-used spices and various other strange artifacts. This discovery marked the beginning of a journey into the dark and mysterious history of their home, a journey that would reveal secrets long buried and forgotten. As the family painstakingly removed the grim items, they sent hundreds of the artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown for analysis. The expert, well versed in the folklore and traditions of the region, attributed the macabre findings to powwow or Dutch magic. This ritual, originating in the culture of the Pennsylvania Dutch, was believed to treat ailments and offer physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers who arrived in Pennsylvania in the 1600s and 1700s. They were often of Lutheran, Mennonite, or Amish faiths, and their unique blend of beliefs included a rich tradition of folk magic. According to the Washington Post, many of the powwow spells dealt with the care of livestock, finding water, or treating minor ailments, reflecting the practical concerns of early American settlers. However, not all powwow spells were benign. Some delved into darker territories, even conjuring demons. One particularly eerie ritual was a hex meant to create loyalty in a dog. To attach a dog to a person provided nothing else was used before to affect it. Try to draw some of your blood and let the dog eat it along with his food, and he will stay with you. The Bretzus family's discovery not only unearthed a chilling piece of history, but also brought immediate consequences. The mold growing on the rotting carcasses caused severe illness among the family members, and despite their efforts, the nauseating odor of decay persisted. As they tried to cope with the immediate physical effects, they also began to delve deeper into the history of their home, hoping to understand the reasons behind the bizarre and disturbing findings. In their quest for answers, the Bretzus family uncovered a wealth of information about the previous owners of the house. The records revealed that the farmhouse had been owned by a series of individuals who were all connected to the local practice of powwow. These previous inhabitants had lived in the house during the time the newspapers were dated, linking them directly to the artifacts found in the walls. The Bretzus family began to piece together the lives of these individuals, discovering that many had been local healers who practiced powwow to help their neighbors. The Bretzus family also learned about the dark side of powwow magic. While most of the spells and rituals were intended to help and heal, there were also those who used the magic for more sinister purposes. Tales of curses and hexes, conjured to harm enemies or achieve selfish goals, emerged from the shadows of history. The family found themselves wondering if the dead animals in their walls were the result of such dark practices. Were these animals sacrifices intended to curse the house or its inhabitants? Or were they part of some protective spell that had long since decayed, leaving only the remnants of its power behind? One particularly chilling discovery was a diary belonging to a woman named Anna, who had lived in the house in the early 1940s. Anna was a powwow practitioner known in the community for her healing abilities. Her diary detailed her struggles with a rival healer, a man named Johannes, who accused her of practicing dark magic. The entries became increasingly frantic as Anna described strange occurrences in the house, objects moving on their own, whispers in the night, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. The diary entries culminated in a final, cryptic message. I fear that Johannes has cursed this house. The animals in the walls are his doing, I am sure of it. I have tried to counter his hex, but the darkness grows stronger each day. If anyone finds this, know that I did not succumb willingly. The house is his now. The Bretzus family was left to ponder the meaning of Anna's words. Had Johannes truly cursed the house? And if so, was the curse still active, causing the illnesses and strange occurrences they had been experiencing? The family decided to seek the help of a modern-day powwow practitioner, hoping to cleanse their home of any lingering dark magic. The practitioner, an elderly woman named Elise, arrived with an air of calm authority. She performed a series of rituals using herbs, chants, and symbols passed down through generations. As she worked, Elise explained that powwow magic was a powerful force capable of both great good and great harm. She assured the family that, with the proper cleansing, their home could be restored to a place of peace and safety. The rituals took several days to complete, and during this time, the Bretsuis family experienced a range of emotions. Fear and anxiety gradually gave way to hope and relief. By the end of the cleansing, the mold had begun to dissipate, and the foul odor had significantly lessened. The family felt a newfound sense of lightness in their home, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Elise cautioned the family that while the immediate threat had been dealt with, they would need to remain vigilant. She advised them to incorporate protective symbols and practices into their daily lives, ensuring that no dark forces could take hold again. Grateful for her help, the Bretsuis family followed her advice, making small but meaningful changes to their routines. As the years passed, the Bretsuis family continued to uncover more about the history of their home and the people who had lived there. They discovered that Anna had not been the only one to encounter strange occurrences. Other previous owners had also experienced unexplainable events, leading to a reputation that the house was haunted. The Bretsuis family came to embrace the history of their home, viewing it as a testament to the resilience and strength of those who had come before them. They preserved the artifacts they had found, creating a small museum in one room of the house. This museum served as a reminder of the power of belief and the thin veil between the natural and supernatural worlds. Through their journey, the Bretsuis family learned that the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the walls, the air, and the very foundation of our homes. By understanding and respecting this history, they found a way to live in harmony with the spirits of those who had come before. Their story serves as a reminder that sometimes the most haunting tales are not found in books or movies, but in the places we call home. Exorcism in Indianapolis. In a chilling series of events that captivated the nation, the Indianapolis Star published a detailed report last year about the terrifying ordeal of LaToya Ammons and her family, who claimed to have been besieged by demonic possession. The story seemed like something straight out of a horror movie: children climbing walls, being flung across rooms, and speaking in deep, unnatural voices. Yet, this was no fictional tale. The accounts were substantiated by nearly 800 pages of official records and numerous interviews with police officers, Department of Child Services, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. The family's nightmare began in November 2011 when LaToya Ammons, her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children moved into a rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. Almost immediately, strange phenomena began to occur. Swarms of flies gathered on their porch in the dead of winter, strange noises echoed through the house, and shadowy figures were seen lurking in the darkness. These eerie occurrences were just the beginning. The situation quickly escalated. LaToya's 3 children, ages 7, 9, and 12, began exhibiting disturbing behavior. The youngest boy, aged 7, would sit and talk to an invisible figure that only he could see. The children's eyes bulged and their voices deepened, speaking in tones no child could naturally produce. LaToya herself claimed to have been physically attacked by unseen forces, feeling as if she were being choked or held down. One particularly harrowing incident involved the 9-year-old boy. According to a DCS report, which was corroborated by a nurse named Willie Lee Walker, the boy had a weird grin and proceeded to walk backward up a wall to the ceiling, flipping over his grandmother Rosa in the process. The boy landed on his feet without ever letting go of Rosa's hand. This unbelievable act left witnesses in shock and deepened the fear and confusion surrounding the family's plight. The 12-year-old girl also endured terrifying experiences. She later told mental health professionals that she felt as if she were being choked and restrained, unable to move or speak. She heard a malevolent voice that threatened she would never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes. These terrifying episodes left the family desperate for help. In an effort to rid their home of the malevolent forces, LaToya turned to the church. She contacted various local churches, but many were skeptical or unwilling to get involved. Finally, she found a sympathetic ear in Father Michael Maginot, a Catholic priest from the nearby St. Stephen Martyr Parish. Father Maginot agreed to investigate the situation. Father Maginot visited the Ammons' home and conducted a blessing, sprinkling holy water in each room and reading from the Bible. Despite his efforts, the strange occurrences persisted, Believing the family's claims were genuine, Father Maginot sought permission from the Diocese of Gary to perform an exorcism on the house. Initially denied, he was eventually granted approval after several more disturbing incidents. The exorcisms were conducted in English and Latin, with Father Maginot reciting prayers, invoking the name of Jesus Christ, and demanding the demons to leave the children and the house. During these rituals, Latoya convulsed and screamed, but Father Maginot remained resolute. Over the course of several exorcisms, the atmosphere in the house began to change. The oppressive feeling that had once permeated every room slowly lifted, and the children's behavior started to improve. The family's ordeal gained national attention, and the house on Carolina Street became infamous. Skeptics and believers alike were drawn to the story, debating its authenticity and the existence of the supernatural. Despite the intense scrutiny, those involved in the case remained steadfast in their accounts. In the aftermath, Latoya Ammons and her family moved to a new home, seeking a fresh start away from the horrors they had endured. Father Magno continued his work as a parish priest, his experience with the Ammons family forever altering his perspective on the battle between good and evil. The house on Carolina Street has since become a focal point for paranormal enthusiasts and investigators. Zach Bagans, a well-known paranormal investigator and host of the TV show Ghost Adventures, purchased the house and produced a documentary titled Demon House, exploring the sinister events that took place within its walls. Utah murder-suicide. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find a horrifying scene: his parents and 3 siblings dead. The discovery shocked the small community, as the apparent murder-suicide came without any warning or explanation. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were readying to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written, the Salt Lake Tribune reported. Yet, there was no suicide note, no prior indication that such a tragedy was imminent. Police were left puzzled, unable to comprehend why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year, the mystery surrounding the deaths of the Strack family remained unsolved. The community grappled with the loss and the unanswered questions. What could have driven the parents, Benjamin and Christy Strack, to commit such a heinous act? In January, the police released more chilling details that shed light on the case, revealing a dark and disturbing narrative. According to accounts from family members and a thorough investigation by the police, the Strack parents were consumed by apocalyptic fears and an obsession with a convicted killer. As the Washington Post reported, friends and family told police that the Stracks were increasingly worried about the evil in the world and felt a growing desire to escape a pending apocalypse. Initially, those around them assumed that this desire simply meant the family wanted to move somewhere off the grid to avoid societal collapse. However, the truth was far more sinister. Investigators discovered letters written by Christy Strack to one of Utah's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty. Lafferty was convicted in the 1984 brutal murder of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, Lafferty committed the murders at the behest of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have received a divine revelation ordering the killings. This gruesome story was later chronicled in John Krakauer's book, Under the Banner of Heaven. Christy Strack's fascination with Dan Lafferty began years before the tragic events. The correspondence between Christy and Dan revealed a deep and troubling connection. She and her husband, Benjamin, even visited Lafferty in prison, where they developed a relationship based on shared beliefs and fears. Christy's letters to Lafferty were filled with admiration and a sense of kinship, and she frequently sought his guidance and approval. The Stracks' increasing paranoia and belief in an impending apocalypse drove them to isolate themselves from the outside world. They began to homeschool their children and stockpile supplies, preparing for the end times. Family members noticed the couple's growing obsession with doomsday scenarios, but did not realize the extent of their despair. The investigation revealed that on the day of the tragedy, the Stracks had administered lethal doses of drugs to their children and themselves. The absence of a traditional suicide note was replaced by the eerie and methodical to-do list found in the home, suggesting a calm and deliberate preparation for their final act. The list included mundane tasks like feeding the pets, as if the parents were preparing for a prolonged absence, further underscoring the tragic and surreal nature of their final moments. Um, the case of the Strack family sent shockwaves through the community and the nation, raising questions about the influence of extreme beliefs and the signs of mental distress that often go unnoticed until it's too late. The chilling details of their obsession with a convicted killer and their apocalyptic fears serve as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of untreated mental health issues and the insidious nature of extreme ideologies. In the aftermath, the surviving teen, left to grapple with the unimaginable loss and trauma, became the focus of support and sympathy. The community rallied around him, offering assistance and a sense of belonging amidst the tragedy. The Strack family story remains a haunting example of how fear and obsession can lead to unimaginable acts, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and enduring sorrow. The Phone Stalker. In 2007, ABC News documented a harrowing series of cell phone calls that terrorized several families with chillingly specific death threats. The unidentified callers seemed to possess an uncanny knowledge of the family's daily activities and even their clothing. The calls, which came at all hours of the night, threatened to kill their children, pets, and grandparents. Adding to the terror, the callers left voicemails playing recordings of the family's private conversations, including one with a local police detective. The callers' unnerving awareness of their victims' lives baffled the families and authorities alike. The Kuykendall family, one of the primary targets, endured months of torment from a caller with a scratchy voice who repeatedly threatened to slit their throats. Despite their efforts, the police were unable to trace the calls to any logical source. Astonishingly, the calls were traced back to the Kuykendalls' own phones, even when they were turned off. The situation escalated as the Kuykendalls, along with two other families in Furcrest, Washington, began to suspect that their cell phones were being used to spy on them. The hackers seemed to know their every move, where they were, what they were doing, and what they were wearing. Private conversations were recorded and used to further intimidate them, including a meeting with a local detective. Months of investigation by the police yielded no answers, leaving the families in a constant state of fear and vulnerability. The chilling nature of the case captured national attention, highlighting the dark potential of technology when wielded by malevolent hands. The calls not only invaded the privacy of the victims, but also demonstrated an unsettling level of control and surveillance that seemed impossible to counter. The terror began subtly. The Kuykendall family started receiving calls late at night from an unknown number. At first, they dismissed them as prank calls. However, the calls quickly turned sinister. The voice on the other end was scratchy and menacing, delivering threats that became increasingly specific. The caller knew intimate details about their lives, details that no stranger could possibly know. He described what they were wearing, what they had done earlier in the day, and even threatened to harm their children and pets. The family was paralyzed with fear, unsure of how someone could gain such detailed information about their lives. They reported the incidents to the Furcrest police, hoping for some intervention. But even with the police involved, the calls persisted. The callers seemed to mock their attempts to seek help, and the threats escalated. The police were as baffled as the Kuykendalls, finding no leads to pursue. The terror spread to two other families in the Furcrest area, both of whom began receiving similar calls. Each family reported that the caller knew specifics about their daily routines and even managed to record their private conversations. The chilling realization set in. Their cell phones, the very devices they used for safety and communication, had become tools of surveillance and terror. The Furcrest families couldn't escape the feeling of being constantly watched. They began to notice other strange occurrences. Phones would ring without a number showing, voicemails would appear out of nowhere, and the contents were disturbingly personal. Conversations that should have been private were played back to them, reinforcing the notion that the caller had access to their lives in ways they couldn't understand. The families took measures to secure their homes and protect their privacy, but nothing seemed to work. They switched phone numbers, changed service providers, and even left their phones turned off for extended periods. Despite these efforts, the calls continued, always finding a way back to their new numbers and devices. The psychological toll on the families was profound. The constant surveillance and threats created an environment of pervasive fear and anxiety. Parents were afraid to let their children play outside, pets were kept indoors, and every unexpected sound or movement became a potential threat. The families were prisoners in their own homes, their sense of security shattered. Children, in particular, were deeply affected. The Kuykendall children started experiencing nightmares and anxiety attacks. They struggled to concentrate in school, always fearful of what might happen next. The parents, desperate to protect their families, found themselves powerless against an invisible enemy who seemed to know their every move. The investigation into the Phone Stalker case revealed unsettling possibilities about the exploitation of technology. Experts speculated that the callers were using sophisticated methods to hijack the family's cell phones. This could have involved exploiting vulnerabilities in the phone's software or using malware to gain control over the devices. Despite extensive efforts by law enforcement and cybersecurity experts, the exact methods used by the callers remained a mystery. The family's phones were examined for signs of tampering, but no conclusive evidence was found. The case highlighted the potential for technology to be used maliciously, raising concerns about the security of personal devices in an increasingly connected world. As the story gained national attention, it sparked widespread fear and curiosity. News outlets covered the bizarre case extensively, and the Furcrest families found themselves in the media spotlight. The public was both horrified and fascinated by the idea of someone being able to invade their privacy so completely. The media coverage brought some relief to the families, as it put pressure on law enforcement agencies to intensify their efforts. However, it also attracted attention from curious onlookers and amateur sleuths, some of whom began to contact the families with their theories and suggestions. This added another layer of complexity to their already strained lives. Despite the intense scrutiny, the Phone Stalker case remains unresolved. The calls eventually stopped as mysteriously as they had started, leaving the families with no closure. The Furcrest families moved on with their lives, but the experience left deep scars. They continue to live with the lingering fear that the calls might start again. The story of the Phone Stalker serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in our increasingly connected world. It raises critical questions about privacy, security, and the potential for technology to be exploited in deeply sinister ways. The families affected by these events continue to live with the psychological scars of their ordeal, their sense of safety and security irrevocably shattered. If you found this story intriguing and want to hear more about other chilling tales, subscribe to my channel and like the video for more updates and stories. Stay tuned and stay safe.